I read Jimmy's tweet that Billy Joel will be on the show tomorrow performing for the first time in 13 years, which is really exciting. Do you think that you guys will get him in a skit as good as Ooh with Michelle Obama or a lip sync off?
I actually don't know what they're doing with him. You never know with our show. Like stuff can always happen last minute. I know I'm going to definitely try to sneak into the studio and watch him practice. But I actually don't know. They could be, but I actually do not know. And I wouldn't be allowed to say if I did know, but I actually don't.
Now, when you heard that Jimmy was going to be the new host for The Tonight Show, did you think that you'd be writing for him there? And was it ever an aspiration for you?
When I got the job, I got the job before the announcement that it was becoming The Tonight Show. I got the job when it was just late night. There were no announcements regarding anything. So when it happened, it was almost kind of strange. The announcement happened about 4 or 5 months into me having the job, and it was like, oh, we're going to become this much bigger show very soon. I wouldn't say it was ever an aspiration to specifically write for The Tonight Show. I enjoyed it when I was a little kid. I remember vague memories of Johnny Carson from when I was a kid. I think he transitioned out when I was 6 or 7, so I was never really allowed to stay up that late. I've always valued the tradition of that show and what it's worth and what it means to TV history. So when I found out I'd be writing for the show, I was very excited, very nervous. I was terrified. I'm still terrified.
Jimmy seems like an excitable guy. So what's it like working with him?
It's great. He's super, super funny. I guess I didn't know this or didn't expect it, but he's one of the best improvisers I've ever met in my life. He has the ability to recall information so fast on the spot that there's stuff on the show that seemed written that he's totally making up on the spot with our announcer, Steve Higgins. He's super fast. And it's a little intimidating because I took improv classes, but I'm a slow improviser. It takes me a long time to build to something. I'm much faster at a keyboard than I am person to person, but Jimmy is just super, super fast and super, super funny. And he's a very nice guy behind the scenes, too. Super cool, very nice, cares about people, knows when it's your birthday, that sort of thing. Super cool guy.
So what's a normal day for you?
A normal day for me actually starts the night before. The night before a show, one of our producers will send us, a bunch of news stories, what's big that's happening, right now, a lot of stuff in Ukraine, stuff like that. And then, smaller stories that are dumb, small stories you'll see on, Reddit, where it's, the world's fattest dog or something. And then, the night before I'll spend about an hour or two writing about it, writing a couple joke ideas, where things could go, what things could become. I'll pitch a few ideas to our head writer, and then I come in to work about 6 or 7 a.m. and write for about 3 or 4 hours, and then I send a couple pages of jokes to my boss, who then picks stuff and sends it back to me, and then I keep writing until we have a meeting with Jimmy around 1:30 or 2 o'clock, where he reads everything that we wrote that was picked, and then he decides what he wants to do. And then sometimes we'll write a little more, sometimes it'll be oh, I'd like to do a little more on this news story, or I'd like to do a little more, or hey, there's this March Madness thing, can we get something on this angle for March Madness? So we'll write a little bit more sometimes. And then we bring in a rehearsal audience, which is different from the real audience we tape in front of, and we'll try the jokes, cut it down, and then, what you see on the show is the final result.
Waste Paper Basketball March Madness Bracket. Because I saw that skit.
Yeah.
That was great.
Oh, I love being in that.
You were the guy taking the notes?
I wish. The funny thing is, I'm not a huge sports person.
Mm-hmm.
So, I know who LeBron is, but my brother and my dad are huge, huge sports fans. And, I'm from Florida, so, I understand his value to the Miami Heat, and I really respect it. But, my brother and my dad found out I was in that, and they freaked out. And I was very happy to be in it, and, LeBron was super nice to us, and he was really fun, and he was super funny. And he, delivered right away. He was awesome.
Oh, he was so good. Now, was your first big job writing for SNL?
My first, I started by doing stand-up. I was never a staff writer on SNL. I was a freelancer, and I was also a freelancer for Late Night with Jimmy Fallon for a little while before I became a staff writer. And that just meant, every day I'd send in a bunch of jokes, and I was only paid for what got on the show, which fewer and fewer shows are doing. It's a harder way to break in than it used to be. Mm-hmm. More people are now breaking in via Twitter and YouTube. So I was sort of the last wave of people who could do that. Not that there's any rule against it. It's just people are transitioning to a different way to discover people. So I wrote a ton of jokes for Weekend Update. I got a fair amount on, and from that I started to write I wrote for the ESPY Awards, the ESPN Awards. Again, I don't know sports, so I had to cram for them. So I wrote for the ESPN Awards, both times Seth Meyers hosted. And then I did like a bunch of other stuff, like I wrote a little bit for the MTV Movie Awards once. You know, I've written for Patton Oswalt when he's done a few award shows. And eventually I did the Montreal Comedy Festival in 2012 as a new face of comedy because I also do stand-up. And from there I started to get heat. My Twitter was doing well during the American election. And the combination of having done Montreal and done really well in Montreal and my Twitter account got me an interview at Fallon.
Well, I know, because I did read up that Zach Braff did a skit based on you.
Yeah. Well, I was an intern at SNL for a long time. I left a good impression on a couple of the writers who were very nice, who were super nice. Writers Paul Appel, Emily Spivey, Amy Poehler, and Maya Rudolph were all super cool and nice and gently made fun of me in that sketch in a very nice, positive way.
What was your most memorable show? Because I'm a huge SNL fan. What was like one of the biggest either guests or skits that you wrote that made it, that was made a big impact on you?
I would say that there's a couple. The biggest moment was I was still an intern when I was freelancing. When I started freelancing, that was terrible. I was terrible when I started freelancing stuff. Just terrible. I mean, they had every right to ask me to stop because I was very bad at it. And I had something that I found out was going to dress rehearsal, a weekend update joke that was going to dress rehearsal. Not, I liked the joke, they liked the joke, they told me they liked the joke. And I remember being really nervous because in my head I was like, this is my shot. In my head, too, I didn't realize that, like, I could get a ton of stuff on and not be rich and famous for the rest of my life, that there was a process. Like, in my head, I was like, I get one thing on, and then I'm set for life. The joke put into the middle, like, there was no weird slotting. They were very good with it. And it bombed, just terrible bomb. The joke wasn't worth it. I'm not going to say the joke because I'm embarrassed of it.
Oh.
But it was terrible. I'm sorry. It's so bad that you can find it on a blooper reel of an old SNL movie.
I'm going to look
That's
it up.
how bad it did. And I just remember being like, not crushed. I think I would have been more crushed if it did well and got cut. It almost did so bad that I was like, okay, well, that happened. And it was this weird moment of almost a baptism by fire of being part of that process. Because before that, in your head, you think, I'm just going to do this, and then I get something, and then I'm fine. And in reality, it's much more gritty than that. There's so much like hope and then destruction and then trying again. That it's not like, you do well once and you're fine. It's you have to keep doing this forever. Cool. And I also got put in a sketch once, which was nice.
Which one?
There was one with Seth Rogen, when Seth Rogen hosted the first time he hosted, where there was a bunch of not political cartoons, like comic strip characters who had to do things. And I played the political cartoon character, and I had a full shot, and I got to do a little something on camera.
Awesome.
And I was very nervous.
I would imagine. I don't think that show would make you that wouldn't be easy.
No.
I can ask about diversity in the writer's room. Is there a lot of women? Is there a lot of...
Right now we have, and, diversity is definitely valued, especially in our show. I'm not part of the hiring process, so I can't necessarily speak to it, but, in my office there are two women writers, but nobody thinks of them as, women writers. We just think of them as very good writers.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not like there's, I can't speak to other staffs, but our show is just I don't know how to phrase it exactly, but our voice is very female friendly.
You're inclusive.
We're inclusive. We don't do sexist jokes. We don't do things about body image or call female celebrities ugly or slutty or something like that.
Guys will say that women aren't funny. I'm like, well, you're stupid and you don't understand a joke then.
Yeah.
I like knowing that they're women writers because that makes me happy.
Oh yeah, there's definitely. In my office I've got Jess Dweck and Albertina Rizzo, who are both just amazing writers. Who, it wouldn't make their gender makes no difference. I'm sure that it gives them perspective that I don't have, but they're just good writers.
Yeah. No,
you know what I mean? They're just good. I totally agree with you. That idea that women aren't funny is it either comes from a place where men are jealous, because a lot of men like to think that women are only being valued. It's almost like, well, I would be doing better if I were a woman. They're just trying to get with them, which is not the case.
I used to date a guy who said women aren't funny, and he goes, well, but you're funny. Logic.
Which is sort of like a weird insult two ways.
Men. They're great.
Women aren't funny, but I don't even think of you as a woman. So
Perfect. I'm just a talking boy head right now. So.
Yeah. Yeah, women are definitely funny. It's that's always the dumbest thing whenever people say that. It's a dumb mean-spirited thing that either comes from jealousy or like there are certainly individual women who aren't funny, but there are also a lot of men who aren't funny.
Yeah. I mean, sorry.
I think it can be a taste thing too. Like it's such like a thing where it's like a man will see a female comedian that he doesn't like and he's like, oh, she's an example of why women aren't funny. Whereas to him, it should just be an example of why she specifically is not funny, not like the entire half of a race of people. I'm
going to quote you on that because I like that so much. That's perfect. Sure. That's perfect. Now, my last thing for you, because you had an online show, and I know I read that you guys stopped for the moment. There might be something coming later. Do you know if that's going to start up again, or do you have anything else coming up, tours, anything like that?
I don't have the online stuff is all on hold for a while as we get like this stuff going with the Tonight Show. Like my full focus is on the Tonight Show. I am doing like a few Comic-Cons around with my friend Brian Hussein. We do a show called Comedy Mutant with me, Brian Hussein, and a guy named Mike Kaplan, who's an awesome comedian. And sometimes we have people like Janine Garofalo and Baron Vaughn, very good comics. But we're doing a few Comic-Cons just because it's easier for me to do them since they're on weekends. I don't have to like not be at work.
Because Jimmy Fallon, he does get a break, right? Not a whole lot of a break, but
we do. Usually it's every like month or two you'll get a week off. But because we're trying to establish the show and build loyalty with our audience and show our audience that we're there for them, we're doing a bit of a longer run.
Is there anyone that you would like, even comic-wise, that you would love to see maybe come on the stage on? Like, would you ever go out and do like a a comedy thing?
Yeah, I mean it's
or late night. Sorry.
Yeah, it's definitely something I'd like to do eventually. I think for now, again, it's always like you're focusing so hard on making the day-to-day show as good as you can that once I think we get to like a cruising altitude sort of, it becomes more of maybe this would be a fun thing to do. But for now, we're still establishing the show. So if I did, it wouldn't be for a good while. But yeah, there's a ton of my friends I'd love to see do it.
I like Emily Heller a lot because we look alike.
Oh, she's the best. Emily Heller is the coolest.
She's so funny.
I love Emily Heller.
I saw her in some skits and I'm like, I love her. I got to go to LA so people can think I'm her and I can get into stuff. I'm thinking like it'll totally work. Now, my last question. Oh, go ahead.
She's the best.
She seems really nice.
Oh no, I just love Emily Heller. She's such a cool person.
My last question, because I've taken lots of your time. Are the Roots as cool as I think they are?
Yes. They're effortlessly cool. I'm still nervous to talk to them.
The Black Simon and Garfunkel is amazing. Like, hands down.
It's so good.
It's amazing.
It's so good.
I love it. And the lip sync off, oh my God. I die a little every time. It's so good.
Those are so much fun to watch just because a lot of the musical bits, they're not just cute. It's that they're arranged so well. Mm-hmm. Like, they're just like, you look at Black Simon and Garfunkel and it's fun, you go, oh, that's funny because they took like a rap song and made it sound like a Simon and Garfunkel song, but it also sounds like a very good Simon and Garfunkel song.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of work. Oh my God, music is tough and they just kill it every time. I'm so impressed, and they never disappoint.
Oh, they're so good.
And I watched the lip sync off with Stephen Merchant, and I don't even know where he came from. Like, I've never seen those moves before. Oh, and Jimmy was. Oh my gosh, I was like, the lip sync off could be its own show.
Yeah. It's it's also like a testament to like letting celebrities come on the show and have fun.
Yeah, and I guess they kind of have to be funny to start with. You can't have someone who's like super serious. Well, actually, that would be funny if someone was super serious and did it.
Yeah, I would love that.
Denzel Washington.
I would love that. I mean,
lip sync off.
That'd be great.
That'd be great. I wouldn't say no. Do you have anything else you like to add?
I wouldn't say no. No.
Thanks so much.
Cool. I'm glad. Happy to help.